This story happened to me about 3 years ago. At that time, after graduating from university, I got a pretty good job in the city. I also rented a small apartment near the company for convenience on the way to work. Everything was going well until I kept having the same very increasingly terrifying dream. In my dream, I saw myself going to a very dark place, not to see anything around. At that time, in front of me began to appear an extremely attractive white light. During the dream, my body felt very constricted, unable to naturally control as usual. That flash of light began to absorb my body like a powerful storm, making me unable to resist. At first, the dream was not clear, but later it became more and more stressful. Finally, in that light appeared a person whose face was very similar to mine. He had only half of his upper body and one arm that looked very scary. I tried weakly to push him away, but to no avail. He looked at me with dark eyes and a sly smile and said strange words. He wanted me to return this body and would get it soon. I tried to dodge, but he reached out his hand to catch me. My body still couldn't control itself. I kept asking who he was, but all I got in return was his savage laughter. He rushed at me, clung to me, then continued to say that he would take back everything that belonged to him. I panicked and pushed him away with all my might. I was startled to wake up, but the feeling of being held by him remained intact and did not disappear. That feeling was real, not just an ordinary nightmare. Sweat drenched my whole body. This day was the 20th day in a row that I dreamt of that terrifying man. I panicked and screamed in my dream. When I woke up, I was extremely thirsty and had a sore throat. I decided to go to the kitchen to get a drink. The glass of cold water that ran down my throat made my whole body feel a little bit lighter. I started thinking about that dream. Back in bed, I didn't dare to go back to sleep even though it was just past 3 o'clock in the morning. I knew for sure that if I went back to sleep, I would continue to dream. I was afraid that maybe I had some serious illness. That whole night, I couldn't sleep well. As soon as it was morning, I quickly left the house to go to the hospital. I hoped that the doctor would find a way to help me. At the hospital, I signed up for a general checkup of the whole body, and to my surprise, the doctor said that I was completely healthy, without any symptoms of any disease. Then I told the doctor about my dreams. He thought I was having a psychological problem, so he referred to me to a private psychotherapist. I immediately followed that given address to the doctor's house. Thanks to the referral, I didn't need to make an appointment or make an appointment in advance. Inside the house, we sat across from each other. The doctor began to ask me about my situation. I also very seriously told the story that I was having. Then the doctor also gave me a lot of advice. But the following nights, I continued to dream. The scary man chased after me, demanding my body, making it impossible for me to sleep well. I still continued to find a psychiatrist to talk about my problems, but after a few treatments, there was still no improvement, so the doctor had to give up. So I had to go back, thinking about my problem while walking. Maybe I had to accept that. Because I didn't get enough sleep, even seriously lacking sleep, my body was always in a lethargic state. My work was also stagnant, causing my boss to scold me and affect my work a lot. That day, I left with a colleague. I also told him my story because the two of us are also relatively close in the company. After hearing everything, he suggested that I see a shaman. He thought this may be related to spiritual issues. But I thought those people were just scammers. I was not originally the type of person who believes in ghosts, so I didn't even agree about going to a shaman. That night, I had a dream as soon as I took a nap, but this time it was strange that I could completely control my body and my thoughts. But everything was still the same. It was still a very dark space that couldn't see anything around and couldn't see the other man, so I tried to run away. Suddenly my body felt extremely heavy. I looked back and saw that the man had been clinging to my back ever since. This time he didn't keep his distance to talk to me like before. His voice rang out. He said it was time for me to disappear to give him my body. I wouldn't be able to escape. Panicked, I used all my strength to pull him out of my body. His body clung to me just as he said that I was about to disappear from this body. It was difficult for me to break free from his grasp. It also hurt my hand from his clinging. He still didn't show any anger, but in return he gave a scary smile and said that my body was his own sooner or later, so he wouldn't rush to wait until the time was right. Although scared, I still tried to ask who he was, why he was clinging and wanting to harm me like that. After that, I also warned him to stay away from me. Otherwise, I decided not to stand still and wait to die. But he didn't seem to mind my threats. He revealed his true form with a mouth wide to ear and black eyes. He said that what belonged to him came back to him and then disappeared. I woke up. It was already morning. As always, I was so tired that I couldn't breathe. The feeling was still as intact as in a dream. I felt my hand hurt. After looking back, the bruise was still there. It was clear that everything happened, not a dream. At this point, I understood that the doctors in the hospital could not help me. What I needed was something spiritual. I immediately took out my phone and contacted a colleague. I remembered the shaman he introduced. Although I didn't trust spirituality very much, this was probably my last hope. When I mentioned it, my colleague thought I was making fun of him, because just the other day I said many bad things about this shaman. After listening to my explanation, my colleague also believed I wanted to see that shaman, so he was very excited. He immediately gave me an appointment. After work, they would meet there and go to the shaman together. I was so impatient that I arrived at the appointment earlier than planned. But when I got there, I also saw a colleague who had been there before. Maybe he's also interested in my story. Along the way, he also introduced a lot about the shaman. It seemed that he took the shaman very seriously. Arriving at the place, the colleague also advised me a few things before entering. After having said that, he went to knock on the door and called the shaman. It seemed that he was very familiar with the place. An older man with no hair on his head and a cheerful face opened the door for us. He greeted his colleague enthusiastically. After that, the colleague quickly told the shaman about my story and hoped that he could help. The shaman looked at me. The atmosphere became silent. I did not know what he was doing, only seeing him looking at me for a long time. Then he said that the grudge had existed since before birth. This thing was inevitable because the resentment was too great. I was still bewildered. I didn't understand what was going on and didn't know what to say. My colleague asked the shaman on my behalf again. The shaman said that maybe I didn't know about my twin brother when I was still in the womb, but my mother could only keep my brother or me, and she chose me. When I heard that, I was surprised because I had never heard my mother talk about this. The shaman added that my twin brother was the one I had seen in my dream. At this point, my head suddenly hurt so bad. Maybe what the shaman said was true. That was why my body reacted so violently. Perhaps that the twin brother was also very distressed and deeply resentful of me. That also made me extremely self-blame. Seeing this, the shaman also comforted me. He said it was not my fault and that this choice was a must for my mother to make. I did not want to harm my brother, so I asked the shaman to help him without hurting him. The shaman then took out 2 talismans and gave them to my colleague and me. He told us to put it on. It would protect us. Next, the shaman clapped his hands together, muttering some incantation. Gradually in front of me, the man I met in my dream also appeared. It seemed that the shaman wanted to talk to him. The shaman wanted to let him understand that the previous choice had nothing to do with me and should not hold such hatred, but the man disagreed about it. The shaman was still very patient, continued to explain to him, and hoped that he would transcend reincarnation. But he became angry. He looked straight at me and asked if I was thinking about gratitude. Why I did not give him my body but use a shaman? Obviously I wanted to erase him again. His question was so direct that I didn't know how to answer for a moment. In the end, the more he spoke, the angrier he became, and he assumed we wanted to kill him again. So he immediately rushed towards me, wanting to take over my body. Of course, the shaman didn't give him that chance. The shaman flew over and dealt him a blow. His face has become disfigured, very ferocious like evil spirits, not the shape I still saw. He still couldn't figure out what he did wrong. He just wanted to be alive. Without saying much more, the shaman took a small vase. He began to perform strange movements and chanted mantras. Immediately, my brother's soul was sucked into a small vase without being able to resist. The shaman closed the vase's mouth, his face a little sad. I hope the shaman didn't hurt my brother because I owe him too much. The shaman told me to rest assured because he will find a way to reincarnate my brother into a member of another good family. That thing made me feel more secure. Since then, I no longer dreamt of him, but in my heart, I still had a lot of guilt about my twin brother.